Hey everybody, Nick here. In this video, I'm going to build a completely automated end-to-end AI newsletter system that sources posts completely autonomously on Reddit, then curates them using AI filters, then summarizes them, and then writes new content based on that content before finally putting it into a newsletter format, pushing it out through Mailchimp, although you could use whatever the hell you want, and then, getting it seen by real people. This was a viewer request. I had a lot of fun putting it together. So if you guys have any other systems you want to watch me build, then by all means, drop a comment down below. If it's a good one that I haven't done yet, I absolutely will record a video just like this. Appreciate the time. Let's get into the system. So I haven't actually built the system out. What I want to do is I want to build this alongside you. The reason why is because I found a lot of content on YouTube about automation is unfortunately only really showing you the finished product. They never really show you the steps that you need to take to get there. I always think of it sort of like an engineer who's trying to improve his engineering skills, looking at a picture of the Empire State Building and being like, awesome, I think I can build that, right? There's a lot that you don't know during the discovery process. And my purpose in these videos and also my channel more generally is just to show you guys what that looks like. So we're going to do some build alongs. I'm going to try and figure these things out as they come. I may have some stumbling blocks, may have some issues. That's okay. I want you guys to see what a real actual building process looks like. And, one of the reasons I'm doing this is just because I've heard from a lot of my viewers that they tend to like this sort of content. So if you don't, maybe let me know. Anywho, I've spent around 5 minutes thinking through this, and here's how I believe this system is going to work. We're going to start by getting posts from some popular subreddits. I've done some thinking, and I want to do my newsletter on AI. So I want this to be just some general purpose artificial intelligence newsletter called Loop. Once we have, this newsletter post source from Reddit, what we need to do, obviously, is we need to scrape it using a service. So I have a couple services in mind. I'm going to run through each of them in a moment. Then we're going to filter posts based off the subject and based off some other metrics to ensure relevance. When I say other metrics, I mean, like you tend to get a lot of info from Reddit, like upvotes, downvotes, there's comments, all that stuff. So we can actually use that as a second order filtering mechanism to tell us whether or not a comment is good or whether or not a post makes sense or whatever. From there, we're going to store posts in a database, which is really just a Google sheet, with a unique ID. The idea being the second that you start having some sort of object permanence, the second you start like storing data somewhere that you can retrieve it later, you open up your application to like dozens, if not hundreds of other cool things that you can do. And that's what we're doing. We're future-proofing this as well. And then after that, every week or however long you want to run your newsletter, in my case, it's going to be every 7 days, we're going to grab a certain number of posts. Then we're going to use AI to summarize those posts and then use that to write a standalone newsletter. We're then going to add the copy to a newsletter platform like Mailchimp. I just picked Mailchimp here because it's the one that's the most accessible. From previous projects, I know that they have an API endpoint we could call to populate a newsletter template, and not all newsletter platforms do. And yeah, this is sort of how I think things are going to go. Reality is often deceptive, and a lot of the time, if you remember from my other videos where I've done something like this, some of these steps might have to be swapped around. We might have to do a couple of other things that I'm not necessarily anticipating. But yeah, this is more or less how I think it'll work. Let's dive in with the very first step, which is getting posts from a popular subreddit. So I'm going to unfull screen this. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to type in like Reddit Singularity, Reddit Artificial Intelligence, Reddit OpenAI, right? I'm just really quickly going to go top to bottom and just see what these threads look like realistically. And this is important because anytime that you're building any sort of system, you got to know the ground truth data, and you have to understand what the quality is, and you have to you just have to massage it a little bit before you actually want to go through the rigmarole of like building out a system. If you make shitty assumptions with the ground truth data, then a lot of the time you'll carry those shitty assumptions the entire way through the rest of your program or your flow. So I'm just going to really quickly read through this top to bottom, and I'm just going to see what kind of data we're getting, okay? And I got these 3 subreddits open. This looks pretty reasonable to me. So I like Singularity just because, it's a subreddit that I personally visit reasonably often. Scrolling through, it's confirmed OpenAI's Sora is releasing for the public today. Sick. New footage of Optimus walking outdoors. Hell yeah. ChatGPT Pro users get infinite Sora usage at 20-second videos with 1080p. Hell yeah. Staff claims AGI is achieved with O1. Cool. So there's tons of posts here. I'm noticing the vast majority of these are videos and or photos. Additionally, they have links. That's kind of annoying because if you think about it from my perspective, like the simplest way to do this would just be to feed in the text of this Reddit post into my newsletter generator. So I'm kind of now thinking, all right, there are like a couple things we could do. Okay, this subreddit looks a little better. Most of it's text. But there are a couple things we could do. We could develop a system that like goes through the images and also reads through the images, summarizes them, that sort of thing. Or we could just look for posts that only really have text, and then we could just summarize those. That'll probably be the easiest. Let's read through the OpenAI one. Cool. So most the same. Ooh, we got an MKBHD video. Interesting. Yeah, so more of the same. I'm thinking what I'm going to do is I'm just going to see how many of these communities I could scrape. If I can funnel these into one data source, that'd be ideal, because I don't think I'm going to get enough data for like an actual cool newsletter if I just source only from the Singularity or only from the artificial intelligence subreddit. So my mindset now is, okay, great. I'm going to try and see how many of these I can feed into a scraper of some kind. Then once I know, we're going to run through, and I'm probably just going to try eliminating all of the images and all the videos first, because I want to see if I can get by on text posts alone. If I can, then I know the scraper is going to be a total walk in the park. It's going to not be a problem already. So in terms of how to actually go about the scraping aspect, what I basically always do anytime I want to build out an application that requires data from either a social media source or whatever is always go to this platform first called Apify. Apify basically just lets you make APIs out of anything. And they have this marketplace or store component where other people create scrapers and then make them live for you. They will charge you a small fee for usage, but this abstracts away all the complexity and all the bullshit of you having to actually like go out there and build your own scraper, which is great for me because I just wanted to whip this thing up in like an hour or so. And if I had to build my own Reddit scraper, god damn, would that take me forever. So Google Maps extractor, Instagram scraper, TikTok data extractor. You can see you can scrape whatever the hell you want. I'm just going to type in Reddit. And from here, I see a couple. I see Reddit scraper Lite, which I personally used before. Reddit scraper, Reddit API scraper, just opening these in new tabs. And the idea is we want a scraper that allows us to do a couple things. One, we want it to be like reasonably affordable. We don't want to spend a lot of money on this, right? If your newsletter operation costs you $10 a month or something, that's great. You have a completely automated AI newsletter for $10 a month. Jesus, people 5 years ago would probably be spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on something equivalent. But we also wanted to get us the data that we need. And what we need here is, I'm thinking we need the Reddit post text. So I'm seeing here it says scrape Reddit post with title and text, username, number of comments, votes, media elements. That looks good. This one here looks like it's made by the exact same guy, Trudax, Gustavo Rudiger. It's just, one is light, so I guess you probably get less data. The other is scraper. So yeah, $45 a month, screw that one. This one seems to be reasonable as well. This one seems to be reasonable as well. Why don't we just use the Reddit scraper Lite? And I have to see the interface on this thing. So I'm just going to go over here into my actors. I'll go to store, and then let me go to Reddit, scrape Reddit Lite. Let me save these changes here. Okay, great. And now we have what looks like a bunch of fields that we can edit in order to scrape the specific resource. So scrape information about post communities and users without login. That's great. That's what we want. Start URLs. If you already have the URL of pages you want to scrape, you can set them here. If you want to use the search field below, remove all start URLs here. I imagine this is probably just some place that I pump in the community. Excuse me for that. I pump in the community, and then, it's probably going to scrape it. And what's cool is it looks like I can do multiple, so that's nice. Let's go back here, add this. Let's go back here and add one more. Okay. And I don't know if these settings are automatically on, or if this is just because I've used this before and like I set these on. Not really sure. Definitely search for posts, comments. Yeah, posts only. We don't want to include NSFW content. We're going to do 100. Are we going to do 100? Yeah, all right, screw it. Let's do 100. Okay, so I'm going to save this. I'm going to start, and I'm just going to give this thing a run. And the idea here is I'm going to see the data. I'm going to see the format before I like get ahead of myself. Once I verify the format is okay, assuming that it is, then I'll jump into Make, and I'll see how I can take the data from the scraper and stick it into make.com. So yeah, I'm seeing it's getting my data, which is cool. It's probably going to take a minute or two. I'm not seeing any data inside of here, which is weird. Why not? Maybe do I need to go hot? I remember there being some issue with this sort of thing. Not entirely sure what it is, or maybe it's because it says skip users posts. That might have something to do with it. Okay, no, it's adding some stuff to the queue. Yeah, I think this scraper just had some weird thing where you need to select what type. Reddit can sort posts based off hot, new, top, or rising. So if you click top, if you click hot, you sort of have these URL endings. And yeah, I just remember there was some issue where when I didn't use that, I didn't get the post, but when I do, I get them. Obviously, there's no real way to know these quirks unless you actually go out and handle it. But yeah, I'm getting a lot of cool posts here. Looks like most of these are recent in the last week or so, which is nice. Some of these don't have thumbnails and stuff. Okay, great. So, I'm getting enough data. This is more than enough data for me to be able to run a test. Now, if you think about it kind of logically, what I have to do next is I have to set up a system that filters these posts based on the subject matter. Like, let's look at this post here. If you have a product to promote, this is where you can do it. Outside of this post, it will be removed. I don't really want that in my newsletter, right? So I need a way to filter that out. I'm thinking I'm probably going to use artificial intelligence to do this because it's flexible and smart. But yeah, so I think what I'm going to need to do is, first of all, I'm going to need to get this data inside of make.com. The way you do so is you go over to storage, and then here it says dataset ID. Just copy this over. And then inside of make, type Apify. What you want is get dataset items. Paste in the dataset that you just copied into this dataset ID column. Let me select the right account. And then just leave the rest of this blank. The purpose of this is this just allows us to connect to Apify and bring the data into a no-code automation platform like Make, which just allows you to do way more cool shit with it. So yeah, this looks pretty solid. We're getting all the data here. So that's that post that I was referencing with the product promotions and stuff. This is another one. Looks like we have a body column, which is really nice. I'm happy about the body. Very happy about the body. Because yeah, we're getting all the information we need, but we just want to make sure that we have some way to filter it. So kind of like what I'm thinking is, okay, how do we filter out this information? Probably based off the title of the post and the body, using AI so that we only extract things that are relevant. Like, this is what I want. A drop-in replacement for Llama 3.1, 70B approaches, whatever. This is the sort of stuff I want. Meta releases this. That's a cool piece of news. I want stuff like, I don't know, autism and artificial intelligence. New discovery says blah, blah. ChatGPT 4.0, better than Gemini Advanced. Do you know what I mean? So that's what I want. We need a way to filter this out. What I'm going to be doing is I'm going to jump into GPT here. And then I'm going to go create a completion or prompt. And I'm actually just going to write a prompt that does all this filtering for me. Now, because this is a filter, I'm just going to use GPT 4.0, which is a much more inexpensive model. And let me run you guys through what my prompt would actually look like if I were to design this for myself or for a business that I'm working with. The first thing I do is I'd add a system prompt that says you are a helpful, intelligent assistant. That's the very first. This is basically just whatever the model identifies as. I'm saying, hey, GPT, you're a helpful, intelligent writing assistant. So be helpful, be intelligent, and assist me with writing. And then afterwards, we go down to user. And this is sort of where we give it instructions. We tell it what we want it to do. So what do we want to do? We are creating a newsletter with new and exciting developments in AI. Let's say that lists new and exciting developments in AI. Your task is to filter a Reddit post based on relevance. If it's relevant, and return either true or false. Rules. A post is relevant if it's about news, developments, exciting progress, or if it'd be considered newsworthy. Let's just go with that. A post is irrelevant if it's about something personal, or if it's a question, or if it's a community moderation, or if it's like a community moderation post like this one, or if it just contains an image / link with no context. Let's do that. Return your output in the following using this JSON format. We'll go relevance, and then it'll just be true or false. And we're just going to put this in brackets here. You don't have to. Sorry, we're going to put this in quotes. You don't have to. I'm just going to do this for the purposes of communicating with this model, kind of like an API. Okay, great. And now in terms of the text content, let's just go post, and then let's feed in the body. That looks pretty good to me. We'll just feed in the body. Well, maybe we should do the title too. You know, maybe we'll go title, and then we'll feed in the title, and then we'll go body, and then we'll go body. Perfect. Awesome. That looks pretty good to me. How many did we scrape here? We scraped 91. So why don't we just change the limit of this to 10, and then let's just get it to really quickly run a test on these 10 and just see what it's outputting. Oh, my bad. So we're getting the output as JSON, but I actually want this JSON to be output and then parsed as well. So in order to do that in OpenAI, what we need to do is go down to Show Advanced Settings, then scroll down to the bottom to where it says Response Format. What you want to do is select JSON, then click Parse JSON Response, then click OK. We're going to save this and then run again. And now what we should get is we should get a result variable with the relevance. Perfect. Awesome. So I'm just really quickly going to jump through here, just see if any of these are true. I just want to see, out of 10, how many realistically can I expect to be true? I don't know if any of them will be. We'll go result. Okay, correct. This one looks like it's true. Let's see what the detail was. The CEO who says cheaper AI could actually mean more jobs. Okay, cool. That looks pretty solid. I like it. Let's go down to this one. Relevance false. This one false. This one false. Oh, nice. So we got 2 out of the 5 so far. 3 out of the 5. That's great. Kind of losing my place here. Yeah, so 3 out of 5 so far. Sweet. Honestly, that's more than sufficient for me. Like if you think about it, if we scrape, just based off the cost of this, if the cost of this thing is $4 per 1,000 results, we just scraped 10 and we got 3. So let's just even say that 20% of our records are okay. How many records do we really want in our newsletter? Like I'm thinking what we're going to do is we're going to feed in like 5 or 6 of these, and then our newsletter automation is going to like summarize these and then provide a link back to the resource. Or maybe it's not even going to provide a link back to the resource. I don't even really think that's necessary. We're just going to like compile this as if we were the news source. So realistically, how many do we really want in a newsletter? I don't know, like let's say 6. So in order to get 6, if it's 20% of posts land, then if we just multiply 6 by 5, then that's 30. So in order to get this done, I think it's like 1.2 cents or something, or 12 cents, 12 cents per week. That's a walk in the park. Yeah, no problems there. I'm not going to worry about the images or anything like that. I'm only going to select posts that don't have images and that are just pure text posts that we can summarize based off of. That just seems to me the simpler way to do it. Let's call this automated newsletter, automated AI newsletter system. I'm just going to do 1 because I have a feeling we're going to need 2 scenarios here. And then what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to dump all this into a Google Sheet. So I have this Reddit post database set up here. I don't have any fields or anything. What I want to do is I just want to take this, download all the output bundles. You see all these? I'm just going to copy this. Then I'm going to paste this into ChatGPT. And I'll say, your task is to create a CSV of key names. I'm going to paste these into a Google Sheet as headings. This is now going to take the data and it's going to just give me a bunch of headings that I can very quickly and easily use. Maybe quickly and easily was an overstatement. Yeah, I don't know why I have to download a file. Come on, man, just output it as text. Yeah, there we go. Cool. I'm just going to copy all this now, go to my Google Sheet, and then paste this in. And then I'll just go data, split text to columns. Perfect. And now I have basically like all of the data columns in here that I'd want. I'm just going to change the style of this a little bit. And I'm a huge slut for enter, so I'm going to use enter. Let's give this a quick little click. Beautiful. Looks clean. And let's just call this scraped posts. Now let's head back over to make.com. And what we want to do now is we just want to go to Google Sheets, add a row. And then I'm going to want to go down here to nick at leftclick.ai. and then choose my spreadsheet ID. It's going to be called Reddit Post Database. And then I'm going to have to select the sheet name, which is just going to be scrape post. It does contain headers. And check out how simple and easy it is for me to map all of these now. I still need to add the filter, which I'll do in a second. But just look at that. This is substantially faster than, when you make the fields in this equivalent, it's just substantially easier and faster. Also, there's one thing I'm realizing, like I'm going to want to use this as a database, right? But I'm going to want to keep track of which posts in this I've used for my newsletter, because logically, I'm going to need a way to list all of these and then select them, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add one more column here, and I'm just going to call it post status. I'll head back over here, and then over here, I'm just going to type in new. So new is just going to be, after I scrape it, this is where it goes. Awesome. That looks pretty good. Let's add a filter. Actually, there's one more thing we have to do before we do this. If you think about it, before we add a new record, we have to check to see if the record already exists in the database. If it does already exist in the database, we shouldn't add it. So one thing I noticed while I was reading through this data is that there's an ID field. This ID field means that we can actually search through the sheet looking for an ID. And if there's an ID that matches this ID, then we don't have to add it. So I'm actually going to drag a search rows module and just add it in front of this. I'll type Reddit. Oh, I'm using the wrong email. One sec. I'm going to type in Reddit over here. Grab my Reddit post database. Sheet name is going to be scraped posts. And then what I'm going to do is, you see where it says filter? I'm just going to go and check to see if the ID is equal to this ID here. And if it is equal to this, what I'm going to do is, if it is equal to it, total number of bundles will be greater than 0, logically. So if I want to check and see if something is new, total number of bundles will be equal to 0. What I'm doing is I'm searching for rows with the same ID. So if there are records with the same ID, then it'll return more than one. So if I just check to see if it's equal to 0, it'll basically always work, which is nice. So that looks good to me. Over here, I'm just going to add a filter for relevant. And I'm going to say condition relevance equal to true. So now we have two filters. We have one for relevant and one for new. Now that that's good to go, I'm basically just going to run this puppy on all the records and see what happens. Let's go 100. And then let's just run. Looks like most of these aren't relevant. The ones that are now passing the Google Sheet, and they're all new. Ooh, it's kind of ugly. Also, I'm adding this to the wrong column. That's annoying. Okay, let's fix this before it just gets unbelievable. Reset. Then I don't like how tall these are, so I'm just going to click them back here. Hold on one sec. Just go right here. Also, I think the reason why this is doing is something to do with wrapping, so I just fixed that. Okay, cool. And now we're actually scraping these, which is pretty sweet. This looks good to me. Let's just double check to see if this data is everything that we want. Like one thing that you'll notice when I'm building these systems, what I'm thinking about is basically like I'm testing it iteratively at every step. I'm saying, okay, cool. Is the output of this module or this step what I'm expecting? And so this is me actually just double checking that it is. So this looks good. This actually looks kind of weird. Here's what's making news in AI. I don't know if I like that. This is actually basically my same, this is The Verge doing the same thing I'm trying to do here with my newsletter. So actually we shouldn't allow these in. So I'm just going to bold this for now. I'll keep track of that later. This looks good. That looks good. That looks good. What is this? It's an advertisement. This is my startup. Yeah, so I don't want people advertising their own products here. It seems kind of dumb. I don't know if I want anything that dumb either. Okay, anyway, this actually looks pretty solid. There's only two records here I really don't like. Here's what's making news in AI. So I have to go back to this. And what I want to do is I just want to update my prompt to, what's the best way to think about this? This is basically like, I guess this is a newsletter. So I'm going to now mark things as irrelevant if they are sort of newslettery. So I'm actually going to go into my prompt here. I'm going to say a post is relevant if it's about news, developments, exciting progress, or if it's, okay, post is irrelevant if it's something personal, or it's a question, or if it's a community moderation post. or if it's an aggregated newsletter from someone else, or if it's a product advertisement, especially if it's the founder talking about their own product, or if it contains an image link with no context. Good. So I just updated my prompt. What I'm going to do now is I'm just going to delete these 2 records. If you think about it, I don't want these poisoning the well, but the rest of this looks pretty good to me. So I think we should be able to move on. Now that I think about it, we could do some additional editing through the number of comments and stuff, but I don't actually think that's relevant. Like, odds are if something is in the hot stage, yeah, actually this 1 minute AI news is kind of bullshit. So is this rag thing. Let's remove that too. If something is in the hot stage, then it's probably already kind of pre-vetted. So I'm not actually going to do that other level of filtering. What I am going to do is, it looks like there's one more field here. There's data type here. Looks like I kind of screwed up with my headers here. Post status is not the right column. So let's just scroll down here. Image URLs. Oh, yeah. Let's just go image URLs. Yeah, guys, so there's actually some image URLs here. And then let's make this one post status. So sorry, W is what? W is video URL. Let's go video URLs, image URLs, and then post status here. Cool. So that's that. We have basically everything that we need, I believe, in order to take this to the next level, which is now, like, if you think about it, let me just see, is there anything else that I'm missing here? No, I'm pretty sure that's the whole system. Like, yeah, we now have everything that we need to scrape data and then publish it to this spreadsheet. What we need now is we need a mechanism that will allow us to take the posts in the spreadsheet and then convert them into newsletter text. We have the data source, so it's really just this other half here. Every week, grab X posts, use AI to summarize them, write a standalone newsletter, add copy to some newsletter platform like Mailchimp. So I'm just going to, I'm surprised that I haven't actually had to change any of these steps. This is going to be scenario 1, basically. How do I not make this? This is going to be scenario 1 over here. And then this is going to be scenario 2. And we're going to have to separate them because logically they both do different things, right? Like scenario 1 is going to be getting the data and adding it to DB. Scenario 2 is going to be curating content and passing it through AI and posting to newsletter. That's sort of like the 2-step flow that we have. So this is going to be called Automated AI Newsletter System Source Posts. It's not entirely done yet. We still have one more thing we have to do, but I'll talk about that later. And then I'm just going to create a new scenario here. This new scenario is just going to be called Automated AI Newsletter System Summarize with AI and post to and create newsletter. Now let's just do that. That looks good to me. Awesome. This is popping up because I'm attempting to Command S save this while also selecting the text up here. So it just doesn't know if I'm trying to save the text or if I'm trying to save the whole flow. I just want the title to appear here. So I'm just saving this so that I have both of these available. So this is number 1, this is number 2. Let's move into number 2. So now we just need some way to grab all this. And, I'm also going to want to store the outgoing newsletters somewhere else. So why don't I go here and type generated posts? And then I'll worry about what that actually looks like later. But okay, let's go to my Google Sheets and then let's go search rows. And basically what I want now, if you think about it, is I just want to grab all of the rows in my database with a post status equal to new. Because if the post status is equal to new, it's basically up for grabs, right? I can use this in my flow. So I'm going to go here to spreadsheet ID and just select the Reddit post database. I find in practice the lengthiest part of this is actually just dealing with this Google Sheets module, the search rows one, because it just takes forever to remap everything. Then what I want is I want filter post status to be equal to new. And for now, I'm not going to set a limit, although I probably should eventually. So we're just going to make this okay. I'm going to right click, run this module only. And let's just see if we got all the data. So we got this. This is good. Nice. This is good. Cool. We got basically all the posts, which is, what we want. I mean, like, logically, we're not actually going to, we can't just have AI do 20 posts for news every week. So realistically, we probably want like 6 or 7. I used to run a newsletter way back in the day. It's called The Cusp. It was followed by Dharmesh Shah, the founder of HubSpot. And it used to look like this. This is way back in the day with Dolly. So I actually think, like, ideally what we would do is we'd actually just use this. We'd replicate some of this functionality. Welcome to The Cusp, cutting edge AI news and simplification explained in simple English. In this week's issue, here's some quick little examples, teasers, and then we have some H2, and then we have the actual description here. And then we just do the same thing over and over and over again. Yeah, that looks to me pretty good. So I'm actually going to use this as the basis of my GPT flow. What we're going to do now is, if you think about it, we're going to use AI again. So I'm going to go open AI, create a completion. Actually, I'm just going to copy the module from the previous flow because it has most of what I want. I just need to change the prompt. And then why don't I just rename everything while I'm at it? So this is get Reddit posts. This one will be filter posts. This will be check if exists. This one will be add new post. Cool. Down here, it's going to be get Reddit posts. And this one's going to be, I guess, generate summary. Well, it's just the summary. No, let's generate headline and snippet. Let's call it that. You guys will see why in a sec. I'm going to jump back over inside of this. It has most of the text that we want, which is cool. Let's just say writing assistant. I think I forgot that on the previous module call. And we are still creating a newsletter that lists new and exciting developments in AI. Your task is to take as input a Reddit post title and body and rewrite it. Different words. And rewrite it for our newsletter. The rules are going to be use a casual, Spartan tone of voice. Use third-person POV. Most newsletters, they write like really gratuitously with the new lines. Like they'll keep the paragraphs really short and go like 1 to 2 sentences. So we should probably add some information about that here. Use new lines gratuitously and keep paragraphs to 1 to 2 sentences max. Anything else? I think that's good. Return your output using this JSON format. Let's go headline, and then let's go snippet. Rewrite it for our newsletter. Use a casual Spartan tone of voice, use 30-person POV, and using gratuitously keep paragraphs to 1 to 2 sentences max. Let's try for 4 to 6 sentences total. That looks pretty good. Maybe 5 to 7. I don't know. Whatever. We'll see how it goes. Okay, and then next up, I have to use this user prompt. I'm going to use headline and snippet, right? So actually, let's make this simpler. We'll go new headline, new snippet. This would be old headline, old snippet. Very cool. Now what I'm going to do for old headline is feed in title. Now what I'm going to do for old snippet is feed in body. There we go. And I'm just going to leave everything else as the same. And I just want to test this out, basically. Like a lot of the time you have to add a bunch of examples of like before and after. But what I'll usually do is I'll just have AI generate me a draft of that. And then I'll go through and I'll do some editing. And if I have to add an example, I'll do it then. Now, I don't want to do it for all 20 or 30 or however many I got. So I'm just going to do let's just do 1 for now. I'm going to run once. Let's generate our headline and snippet and see what we're looking at. Meta drops Llama 3.370 bill. Meta's launched their latest Llama 3.370 bill, which is a step up from Llama 3.170b. Performance-wise, it's almost catching up with the 405b giants. A smooth swap for anyone using the older model. You can check it on Hugging Face. It's worth peeking at if you're into AI advancements. I don't like that you can check it out on Hugging Face. So I need to add another rule, and that rule is don't direct people to offsite resources. Don't direct people to offsite resources like that. Okay, let's try this one more time. That actually looked like basically perfect, so I don't think I'm going to need to do any editing. Cool. That looks pretty reasonable to me. Awesome. So now that we have this, you kind of think of it from my perspective. What we need to do now is we need to format this in such a way that we're basically going from post to post and delivering summaries of each. So the variety of different ways we could do this in Make. Probably the simplest is to use a text aggregator. What a text aggregator will do, so I'm going to set the source module to get Reddit posts, is it will allow us to map this into a format that I'm very comfortable with using, which is called Markdown, where you could write headings and you could write like the subheadings. So my heading, let's try H3 first. Yeah, let's try H3. The heading would be this, and then the snippet would be this, right? And then between the two, I'd want a new line. Then after, I'd also want another new line. So basically what had happened is for all of the bundles in this sequence, it'll do this and then just concatenate them all together, which seems to me pretty good. So let's do 6. And then let's go over here, click OK. We're going to get this yellow little bubble here because technically a transformer should never be the last module in the route. But I'm going to give this a go. We're just going to see what this looks like. It's currently processing all this right now for us. Wonderful. Realistically, I shouldn't have done all 6. I should have done 2 because then I would have used fewer outputs, but this looks pretty good to me. But let's just, I'm going to copy all of this and then I'm going to go to Markdown Live Preview, which is just a tool which allows me to paste stuff in. Okay, so this is basically what it's going to look like. Wow, this is sweet. Yeah, stuff like this is kind of annoying. It's probably doing this because I tried to force it to do 7 new lines. So I don't actually need 7 new lines, so. Sorry, 7 sentences. I don't actually need 7 sentences. Let's just aim for like 3 to 5. 3 to 5 sentences total. That'll be a little better. But anyway, still, this is like good format. This is what I like. So everything here is nice. All we need to do now is we just need to put this in, basically just put this in a newsletter. I'm just going to use a Google Doc though. It's going to be the simplest for me. And the thing about Google Docs is they only take as input, there are a couple more things we have to do actually. We obviously have to generate an introduction, we have to generate a conclusion. But I just want to test this out in a Google Doc. The thing is Google Docs requires HTML format, and I'm outputting this in Markdown. I could output this in HTML. I could just ask GPT to do HTML, but I find that when you ask AI to output things in HTML, sometimes the format is a little bit off, or it's not like perfect for the Google Docs module. When I do Markdown, there's a lot less room for ambiguity, and then Make actually has a built-in Markdown to HTML converter that just always outputs the result in like very easy, accessible Google Doc functional format. So I'm going to convert this to HTML. Let's aggregate headlines and snippets. Sorry, my rice is burning. One sec. Okay, rice is definitely a little charred, but hey, we like it crispy. So we're going to aggregate the headlines and snippets, Markdown HTML. Okay. I'm going to feed this in as just an example newsletter. Content's going to be this HTML. And let's just see what happens, right? Because we know that this looks good. Just about how it's going to look in the Google Doc. So I'm going to run this once. Ah, shit, I should have only done 2. Yeah, whatever. That's fine. We're just going to aggregate all of them, I guess. And if you think about it logically, what we're doing is we're going to use one AI model to do the bodies, and then we're going to do another AI model to do the introductions and the conclusions. I think that makes sense. We should generate a title as well. So this looks good to me. I don't like that there's no new lines, but I guess it's just a formatting thing. Yeah, you see how that's like kind of stuck together? There's no space between them. It's just a formatting thing. This actually looks pretty good. I'm going to go enter here. Yeah, I like how casual and Spartan the language is. I don't like stuff like this, a bold claim that adds fuel to the AI fire. Imagine the possibilities if he's right. I think I can probably reduce the incidence of this by changing the temperature from like 0.8. Spartan tone of voice, use a third-person POV. I'm just going to remove the try for 3 to 5 sentences total. Probably be better. But anyway. Cool. Looks pretty solid to me. So now we just want some sort of introduction. And then we just want some sort of conclusion. The conclusion can probably be template. If I just look at how I did this on my own newsletter. Welcome to, so I'm going to say welcome to the loop. Well, welcome to loop, I guess. Cutting edge AI news, explained in simple English, looks good. In this week's issue, 1, 2, 3. Let's dive in. What's the conclusion like? You see how there are all these images here? There's also a bunch of links. We could, like, if you really wanted this to crush, what you would do is you would take these images, you would take the headlines, you'd feed them into a search engine model like Perplexity. Perplexity would return you a list of citations. You take those citations and then you would pass the snippet along with the citations through another GPT call and say, hey, your job is to add links. So add these links to whatever this resource is wherever relevant. It would then go through and it would add links. And then for images, you could use like Midjourney. You could have Midjourney generate images once every 3 snippets or something, just formatted, and then it would actually do pretty well. I don't think I'm going to do that for this, just because if I do that, this video is probably going to be like 3 hours long. But I will give you all of the tools that you need in order to go out there and do it, like little stems and stuff like that, just to make it pretty simple. Maybe you could do the same thing with videos on YouTube and whatnot. Anyway, the thing that's important for us is the conclusion. This is good. I'm just going to copy this conclusion. This is just going to be the same conclusion every time. Pretty solid. So I'm just going to copy this. This is like going to go here. Oh, hold on. That's a wrap. Maybe we'll go, that's a wrap. Enjoyed this. Consider sharing with someone you know. You can also follow me. Well, this is going to be a pretty short format. So you can also follow me on Twitter if you prefer more straight to the point AI news like this. See you next week, Nick. Cool. And we need some intro, right? So that's what I'm going to do now. Let's take this. Let's use this to generate introduction and conclusion. No conclusion, sorry. What was that other thing we need to generate? A title, right? So we're going to go generate introduction and title. We're actually going to use this to generate an like AI generated title. So we're creating a newsletter list, new and exciting developments, and now your task to take as input the newsletter and write an introduction and a title. Rules, casual, Spartan tone of voice, third person POV. You know what? I'm just going to remove most of these rules. And then I'm just going to say, use a casual Spartan tone of voice. Follow this template. Then I'm just going to go back here, scroll all the way up to the top of my thing. Then I'll just go back here and then paste this in. Welcome to Loop, cutting edge AI news explained in simple English. Cool. In this week's issue, let's do 1, 2, 3. Let's do this. Return your output using this JSON format. Introduction, and then title. We should probably do titles. Use these examples for titles. Why don't I just go back through my blog? Let's get a couple of example titles. That's a good one. So I like this one, kind of clickbaity. As you see, the clickbait did not start on YouTube. The clickbait has been happening for a long time. Let's do that. Okay, cool. Awesome. Right. So what I need newsletter. Then I just need to put in this text. And then I'm just going to go over here, and then you know where it says result? You can actually access parameters before they're even generated by going result title. And then what I want next is I want result introduction, I believe, right? Yeah, introduction. Okay, this should be good. Let's see how it goes. Paste the markdown here. Let's run this bad boy. I'm pretty excited. I hope this works. It's going to be really cool. Man, I love templating content like this because like, even if hypothetically you wanted to use this for your own newsletter and it wasn't perfect, even if it got 80% of the way there, which these models are totally fine doing, you just 5x the leverage on whoever's time it is. Look at this. Ooh, that's clean, man. Oops. This. That is clean. Okay, Meta launches Llama 3.3 70 build to compete with the big players. Welcome to Loop, cutting edge ideas explained in simple English in this week's issue. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You know, to be honest, I don't really need all 6 of these here. like this, you already know all the news from this. Okay, so let's just tell it to pick the top 3 for the introduction. Let's do that. Pick the top 3 news headlines. Don't use more than the top 3 news headlines. Let's just do that. Because otherwise, I mean, there's no point. You're just reading the whole fucking newsletter right here. I mean, some of these are a little longer, like Box CEO. Yeah, some of these are a little too short. Google's latest quantum chip meet Willow. How do I make this longer? What is the body of this? Oh, it's an image. You know what? We have to remove the images here. Like, just an image, that's not going to work for us. The reason why this was so short is because it just says images and then it goes. So actually, we need to adjust our filter back here. Or if it just contains an image link. Let's just see what the exact text was. Or if the body merely contains an image link with no context. There we go. This is going to force all of the ones that say images to just get out. So we're not actually going to have these anymore. So when we do our newsletter, you know, we're not going to have to worry about these like 1 or 2 line things. Ideally, all of the posts that are here are going to be substantially longer, which is cool. Okay. So we got 6 here, generate introductions and title, markdown, Google Docs. Let's run this through. And I want you guys to keep in mind that I'm using this Google Doc here just as an example. After this, we're going to take the same flow and we're just going to connect it to Mailchimp or Klaviyo or whatever newsletter provider I deem worthy. I am the one who deems newsletter providers worthy. Okay, we just ran it through. We're creating the Google Doc. I'm going to go down to web view link again, paste it, open it. And then I'm going to go and just make the spacing a little sexier. So I want to see kind of what this would actually look like. We could even do some formatting here. We could like have this be bolded. Maybe do something like that instead because I'm using a colon down here. But anyway, Meta launches this. AI might be boosting jobs according. NATO uses AI to persuade soldiers. Wow. This is pretty clean, not going to lie. And the that's a wrap looks good too. So yeah, I'm just going to change the Introduction template to include a dash instead of the colon, just because I don't think it looks good in English to have two sentences, one immediately after the other, and both of them to have colons like this. So I'm just going to use an M dash. And then if you think about it, what we need to do is we just need to update the Google Sheet so that the post status is like published or something instead of new. So we just need a way to update this. The way you do so is you go to Google Sheets, go update a row. And I need to put this inside of this aggregator. And then I'm just going to choose Reddit post database. Reddit post database. Sheet name is going to be generated. No. We got to dump this to a Google Sheet too. Forgot about that. We're going to add in the row number from the Reddit post that we got. So it actually returns the row number. So we know that, hey, when I update the post, I want to update row 2. And then what we want is we want post status to be published. Set post status to published. Maybe we should just say update post status. It's probably simpler. Oops, fuck. Do not consume any more of my operations. Thank you very much. Looks pretty good. And then, yeah, we also need to do one more thing. What I want to do here is I want to go and add another row. So instead of me going here and clicking add a new row and having to like do the reconnection again, I know that I have one module that already adds a row. So I'm just going to paste this in. Then I'm just going to remove this filter. And I do that just by holding Command C and then pressing Command V. And then what I want to do is I want to add a row, not to scraped posts, but to generated posts here. Now I don't actually think I have the headings yet, do I? No, so I have to add headings. What headings am I going to add? Actually, I guess I don't know yet. Because what I want to do is I just want to have a store in Google Sheets, like a database that includes all of the campaign information. So yeah, technically I can't do this until I have campaign information, right? So let me just delete all of these variables. And then why don't we actually do the Mailchimp stuff? That'll be smart. So let's head over to Mailchimp.com. First of all, I know that there's some editable text area here thing. So I just have to really quickly read through the API and just remind myself of this. I've done something similar quite a while ago. So it looks like in order to populate a content area in Mailchimp, you need to include MC:edit with the content that you provide. So yeah, this is interesting. I've tried doing this before quite a while ago, but I'm not entirely sure how. So we're just going to jump into Mailchimp. See if I have this account that works. Which it does. We'll go down to email templates, I believe. Create template. And what we want to do next, I think, is code your own. Paste in code. That's fine. We'll go loop template. Okay, great. We have all of our code here. Nice. What we want to do is we just want to replace, hold on a sec. You know where it says body? You just want to replace everything inside of this with MC:edit, I believe. And save it. It's going to delete all this shit. Should anyway. Should just say MC:edit. Nice. And then just want to save and exit. Just looks good. And now we want to head back into make, and then, yeah, then we go to Mailchimp, create a campaign. Let me actually add this before. And then, yeah, I did the connection with Mailchimp, but what would the title be? I guess the title would just be title. List audience ID, would it just be loop? Good. Subject line would just be title. From name, just be Nick. At loop. From email address would be my email, which I'm just going to use this one for it. To name, nothing. Folder ID. Okay, so fill the body content by template ID, by HTML format text, and then feed in this HTML, this output. And then what you want is you want to go to Mailchimp again. Do you see where it says perform a campaign action? This is what you're going to want to update. Select the campaign ID. Then for action, click send a campaign. And now this is going to create the campaign in Mailchimp. It's going to populate the text with the HTML that we just output from the markdown to HTML module. And then it's going to send the campaign to everybody. Now, I'm going to get into the configuration of how exactly to schedule this and stuff like that in a minute. So don't think we actually have to send this as part of the test, but that is more or less the logic here through Mailchimp. You could probably do the same thing through Klaviyo as well. I actually don't entirely know. I know for sure, like the thing about a lot of these inbound or newsletter platforms is a lot of them don't provide you a way to create a campaign using an API or update the content of a campaign. They actually want to lock you into like dragging and dropping stuff. So I know Mailchimp allows you to do this definitively. Realistically, you could probably try this with all the other main ones like Klaviyo, ActiveCampaign, and so on and so forth. But yeah, this is what we're going to use with that smiling yellow monkey. And then we're going to go add a new post. And then what we want is campaign web type. Okay. So I actually just need to do this once. We just need to see how this goes. So I'm going to go run once. We're actually going to connect all the pieces here. And this is really like our end-to-end test, if you think about it. I'm assuming that, we're sending this once a week. Let's do like Monday or something. Monday probably makes the most sense. Monday at like 7 or 8. I'll show you guys how to hook that up inside of Apify and stuff. Okay, so yeah, there's an issue here. Why? Oh, because at. Let's just go nick at loop. Let's run this puppy again. Yeah, Mailchimp told me what the error was, which is that there was an at sign in the from field. Apparently you're not allowed to do that. So I just got rid of that and then reran it. So we just finished. We're now generating the intro and the title, markdown, creating the campaign in Mailchimp, and then performing the campaign action. We actually sent it. Beautiful. Let me just see an archive URL, long archive URL. I believe this is going to contain the actual body of it. Yeah. Very cool. AI ad posts as cybersecurity, retail, and sports evolve, and AI benchmarks fall behind. Welcome to Loop, cutting edge AI news explained in simple English. In this week's issue, 3 hits. Let's dive in. Nice. You see that this is different than previously. The reason why is because we're using different content. So we marked the content in our sheet as published. And so the first time it ran did the first 6, second time it ran did the second 6. And now we only have a few posts left. And so in this way, you basically always have like new content in your newsletter. Pretty sick, huh? Okay, so what do we want to do though? We want to, I want all this data here. Campaign ID, recipients, HTML, all this stuff. So I'm just going to do the same thing I did a moment ago, where I copy and paste this into ChatGPT. Good, do this. Turn this into the same thing. Sorry, let's just say use camel case for all this stuff, just because the other sheet was with camel case. And I believe there's something to be said about the aesthetics of this. We're going to go to data, split text to columns, and then bold this. Then paste this in here. And then again, select for enter. We're going to go enter. And then I'm going to go back here and we just want to map all these fields in our Google Sheets module. So let us refresh the headers. And let's go top to bottom. Campaign, web, type, create time, archive URL, long archive URL, email, send type, archive. Recipients collection. This is actually just going to be an option, isn't it? Yeah, it's kind of annoying. Sorry, actually, let's oh, you know what? I don't like this collection stuff, but like if we dump this in, we're not going to get any actual data from this. Just going to say object, probably. Okay, for now, I'm just going to dump this in. For the links, let's just join links with this plain text, long string, HTML, archived HTML. Okay, cool. We'll delete that. looks pretty good to me. Let's just go here, and then what we want to do is we only want to send this once a week, right? So I'm going to go to Monday, and we'll just go, I don't know, 6 a.m. And we'll say every Monday at 6 a.m. we send this puppy. And then if you think about the sheet, we only have 3 new ones that are left. So why don't I go back in and then scrape a bunch more, I guess. Like, let's just do some more scraping. So let's just go to limits, and then instead of 100, let's do 200. Let's actually see how this works. And then what I want to do is I want to hook this up and make this like production ready, right? So there's a difference when you're testing a flow versus when it's actually like being pushed to production. Production just means like reality. So when we tested this flow, we use this get dataset items module, but what we really want is we want there to be a way to trigger after the Apify actor is completed, and then to automatically get the right data set so that the data set is dynamic. It gets updated, it's different. To do this, you click on the get dataset items, you add the watch actor runs before it, and then you replace the dataset ID with this default dataset ID figure. And then I'm just going to set the limit to, let's say, 200. And then over here, what we have to do is we actually have to add our own hook. So I'm going to say finished Reddit scraper. I see that there's another one called that, so I'm just going to rename this just to be safe. The actor I want is I want this Reddit scraper. This one here. Now what this is going to do is it's going to run every time that we finish. And to show you guys how this works, I'm actually going to click run once, and then we're going to watch this get populated with a bunch of new posts. And then after this is populated with a bunch of new posts, we're then going to go in and we're going to run the second scenario as if it were the beginning of a new week and we're ready to pump out a newsletter. So I'm pretty excited. In order to get this hooked up, let's go back to Apify. We got these 3 communities, which looks pretty good. I'm just going to click save and start. And now this is going to run, and we are just going to watch it run from start to finish and just do one final end-to-end test of our whole flow. I consider end-to-end tests like basically a requirement. It's one thing to test iteratively and to do things one module at a time. This enables me to build quickly with a lot of modules in my flow without necessarily breaking anything and having to wonder where the hell is the error. Like, for instance, if I just dropped 10 modules and just thought, yeah, this seems like it'll work, and then there was an error in my flow, like it'd be hard to identify exactly where the problem was. Was it that module 2 was misformatting the data, that module 6 had the wrong function call? But there's a lot that goes on. But if you test iteratively with like the first module, and you make sure that that works, inputs and outputs are as you expect. Second module, that works, inputs and outputs are as you expect. Third, fourth, fifth, sixth, so on and so forth. And basically the second that an error occurs, you know that every other module before that module worked. So obviously the error is with this one. And this allows you to do debugging substantially faster. That said, after you're done with that, in order to like really make sure your flow works, you still need to test it end to end. And my rule is I always test it as close to a production environment as humanly possible. If I'm delivering a project to a client, I will ask myself, hey, what is a client going to provide as input? What sort of fuck ups are they going to make when they filled the form wrong or something? And I basically try and put myself in their shoes just to determine like what my flow would actually look like start to finish. So this is currently running on a ton of these. Looks like we have 70 results so far. A lot of these look like images. So most of these are going to be filtered out of my system, which is fine. I think we're going to end up with 200. So we still got quite a ways to go. Let me think. What are some other things that we might be able to add to the system? Yeah, there are a bunch of these Midjourney APIs, which are unofficial. I don't know if Midjourney has an API yet. Yeah, no, they only have the unofficial ones. But basically what you can do is you can hook up to something like this, and then what this is doing behind the scenes is it's just calling Midjourney through their interface and then returning the results to you like an API call. So what you could do is you could just, over here, where we generate the introduction and title, you could also generate 3 image prompts or something, and then generate 3 images with this. And then you could distribute them every third snippet or something. And then voila, and I have a bunch of images. I think I've mentioned the link stuff, but if you go to Perplexity here, you could create a chat completion with Perplexity. And when you look up something with Perplexity, like let's take one of these Reddit thread posts, for example. I'm going to feed this in. And then look, this is going to return some citations. 1, 2, 3. What you do then is you feed in your title here, and then, you feed in your snippet, and then you say, hey, with these 3 links, this link, and that link, I want you to go into my snippet and then rewrite it and insert the link as markdown, or, a href equal link goes here. And then, now you have a snippet that's like dynamic that has a bunch of links inside of it. I mean, there are many things that you can do in order to make this better and a little bit cleaner, but yeah, I think you guys see that they're like, basically, once you have the core idea of a newsletter automation, you can take this any which way you want. Now, keep in mind, I've scraped almost 200 entries here and it hasn't even cost me $1. Those 200 entries are probably equivalent to, just based off the math, at least 40 or maybe 50 pieces of news. Those 40 or 50 pieces of news effectively, and it's not great to post news from last month, but effectively they allow you to like continue going for a whole month. So this whole scraping cost could be less than $1 a month, which to me is pretty crazy. To think that you can get a fully automated newsletter for $1 for the data, probably like another 50 cents or so for the token usage and the operation usage. You get this whole thing done for $1.50 a week. Like, you are off to the races. You are laughing to the bank. Obviously, you still have to pay money to Mailchimp. You have to pay money to whatever the provider is that you're going to be sending the emails with. But yeah. Okay, great. So we just finished this. We are now going into ChatGPT. This flow is now filtering through and adding things that are relevant. As you see, the first few were not new, which is why they've been filtered out. We had 4 that existed, but only 1 that actually made it to the end. This is worth saying. If you guys also have a low rate limit, if you guys are on a low tier, then you might want to add like a sleep module before or after this flow. The reason being, this is going to consume a lot of operations. Like if we go here and we go to usage, you see I'm consuming 222 tokens, and I'm basically doing it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like about 2 or 3 times a second. So that's like 600 tokens a second. So 600 times 60 seconds, it's about 36,000 tokens a minute, which I believe sets you a little bit over the default limit provided for tier 1s. So just keep that in mind as you are doing, these token-wise heavy operations. Okay, so obviously this is working. Let's head back over to our Google Sheet and let's see what's going on. We see some posts. Reddit is joining the AI market. That's new. Scroll all the way to the right here. We got a bunch of more new ones. Pretty sweet. LLM hallucinations, world's second fastest supercomputer. Ooh, very clean. I am still noticing that a lot of these have the images text here. So I'm not liking this. Now that I'm running this again, I'm noticing that tons of them just say images. So there are a couple other things I could do. I could set a procedural filter where when it has images like this, what I do is I don't allow it through. So relevant would not only include the AI relevant thing, but it would also include a call that says, if this contains the text capital IMAGES with a colon immediately afterwards, then don't allow it in. And that seems pretty reasonable. Yeah, that's probably what I'm going to do. You could also update the AI prompt to do that for you. I mean, kind of the way that I see it is like, if you're going to be consuming this many tokens anyway, that's like a pretty quick and easy hack. I think in my case, the images hack makes sense though. So that's what I'm going to do after this is done. Okay, we just finished with all of these. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make sure that this body does not contain images with this line here, with this colon, I should say. So this was only now going to proceed if this does not contain said colon. And then, awesome. What we're going to do now is we're just going to write a whole newsletter. Let me just see. Am I sending this to myself? Am I going to get this? Yes, I've already gotten one. Cool. I'm going to run this now. It's going to go through and it's going to select 6. And I want you guys just to pay attention to what's happening here. We're updating each of these from new to published on the right-hand side, right? So you're seeing this is basically now incorporating this into the flow. It's pretty sexy. We're now going to aggregate the headlines and the snippets, write the intro and the title, convert it to Markdown, create the campaign, and then perform the campaign action. It does look like there's an issue with the Google Sheet, unfortunately. And it's what I thought. The collection is raising an issue here, which blows. But essentially anything that has like a nested collection here is not going to work. So let's see. Recipients collection here. Maybe we just want list ID instead. So I'm just going to store this settings. I'm just going to replace these with other variables. Settings collection is just going to be subject line. Then tracking collection is just going to be HTML clicks. And then delivery status collection. I'm just putting these in my URL bar so that I can just remember them later. Oh, actually, we don't need this. We could just go enabled. Tracking collection was going to be HTML clicks. Settings collection was going to be, what did we say? Subject line up here. And recipients collection, we're going to be list ID. Links array, I think that should be okay. I'm not entirely sure. Maybe we want, we just feed in the first one. Okay, cool. Should be sufficient now. I'm just going to go back to my Google Sheet and just update this because I don't want this to break again. Obviously, we can only run this a limited number of times, right? Why don't we go through and run this one more time? And what we want is we want to update this, call this list ID. We want to call this subject line. We want to call this HTML clicks. And then we want to call this, I don't remember what we called that. Shit, probably should have written that down. Anyway, we did get all of the text, which is nice. There's this giant blue wall in front of us because anytime that you add something to a Google Sheet, it will automatically inherit the style of the element above it. So that's what that's for. But we can fix that just by selecting all of the elements and then sticking it here. Okay, great. And now we have the plain text long string as well with the actual whole newsletter just listed here, which is cool. And here as well. And this is HTML. The plain text long string is going to include some stuff like telephone, unsublinks, and so on and so forth, just because that's what Mailchimp does, but it doesn't actually exist in actuality. And voila, we now have our finished system with our newsletter. Had a lot of fun putting that one together. If you wanted to change the style or whatever, you could do so by changing the HTML template. But man, is that sexy, and is that completely autonomous. Last but not least, before we finish, let me just show you guys how to schedule this so that this runs whenever the hell you want. So there were two scenarios, right? There was scenario 1, which sourced the data, and scenario 2, which actually did something with the data. For scenario 2, just head over to the scheduler and make sure this is set for days of the week if you wanted to send this weekly. And then like Monday, Thursday, whatever, with a time down here. And then just make sure to clarify whether it's AM or PM. Once this is done, just turn this on a custom schedule. Click on. Then head back to the first one where it says watch actor runs. You'll notice that this scheduler is a little lightning symbol, which stands for immediately. Basically, this is awaiting a webhook. So if you wanted this to work autonomously for you, you'd have to go to schedule, and then you'd have to create a new schedule in Apify, then go weekly, and then just have this run whenever you want. In my case, Sunday at 12 a.m. UTC is perfect. And then go down here to add, click actor, and then just go to Reddit, scraper light. The input is just going to be whatever those 3 or 4, however many subreddits you want were. So we click save, we then click save and enable, and now we have a schedule where this is now triggered completely autonomously. I'll say scrape Reddit weekly. And basically what's going to happen is once a week, that is going to trigger. Every time that triggers, that is going to trigger the dump to Google Sheet automation, which was automation number 1. After that's done, that's going to automatically update this big sheet of ours. And you don't have to do this once a week. You could do this like 2 or 3 times a week if you wanted to source tons of posts, right? But anyway, after that's done, then this, which will also occur once per week, in our case, Monday at 6 a.m. Again, you could do this as many times as you want. We'll go through that sheet autonomously, and we'll update all of the new posts to published as they are sourced and used in actual content. And so in this way, we have effectively created a closed loop automation, which does all of this completely without any sort of human intervention, which is why an approach like this can be so goddamn powerful. I really hope you guys liked that video. I had a lot of fun putting the system together. If you have any questions about how I did so, feel free to leave them down below as a comment. And as I mentioned at the beginning of this clip, I take a lot of my requests from viewers now. So yeah, I'm more than happy to build out a system as long as I haven't done it before and I'm not just like doing the same thing over and over and over again. Aside from that, do the fun YouTube stuff, like, subscribe, get me to the top of the algo. If you haven't already subbed, my watch time rate of non-subscribers to subscribers is going way up just because I'm getting more and more popular. But if you find yourself in the unsubscribe camp, please do me a solid and subscribe. And yeah, I'll catch y'all in the next video. Really appreciate the time.